Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you share with us. Could be dense research, industry reports, or like today, a really deep philosophical text.
Mhm.
And we just try to distill the most profound nuggets of knowledge for you. And today we are engaged in, well, a deep dive into this single, beautifully reflective source. It's titled The Purpose of Measured Action. So this isn't a show about data points. It's really a dive into deliberation, into looking at how true effectiveness often lies in the actions we hold back on, not the ones we rush into. And here's the core idea, the line that really guides this whole thing. Wisdom does not rush into action. It waits until action finds meaning.
That statement is it's transformative, isn't it? Because it immediately shifts our focus away from, productivity and metrics, and it
Right.
moves it toward intrinsic quality. We're looking at the subtle but profound difference between being merely active, just expending energy, and acting wisely. And the source suggests that the hallmark of meaningful action isn't speed or raw effort, but it's alignment with a clear internal purpose.
And that really sets the stage for a critical look at modern life, I think, where, busyness is so often confused with virtue. So our mission today is to unpack this conceptual journey detailed in the text, this evolution from basic creation to action, guided by a fully defined purpose. We really need to home in on the surprising power of the internal pause, of restraint. So to guide our analysis, we're going to keep one central question right at the forefront. How does pausing or consciously restraining action actually increase the momentum of a lasting purpose? Okay, so let's unpack this opening concept. The source starts by noting a pretty fundamental shift. It says, as responsibility settled into creation, a quieter force began to shape movement. Now, before responsibility, we could assume creation was just, spontaneous, energetic, immediate. So what does the arrival of responsibility demand from that energy?
Well, what's fascinating here is the implied growth of consciousness. Initially, that pure, unguided energy of creation. It might have been satisfied just with existing, or maybe understanding how things work, but the text signals this huge leap when responsibility arrives. Awareness, it notes, was no longer satisfied with understanding alone. It sought harmony in action.
Harmony in action. Wow, that is a weighty mandate. It implies that just knowing what to do isn't enough. The timing,
Hmm.
the method of the doing has to be aligned with something larger than the immediate impulse.
Precisely. And this new demand for harmony, it forces the entity creation itself to learn these essential internal disciplines. The source lists them out explicitly, these foundational steps. It confirms that creation had learned to pause, it had learned restraint, it had accepted responsibility. We often see responsibility as, a burden, but here it's framed as the teacher, the necessary teacher of internal timing.
I think we need to stay on that for a second. The concept of restraint as a learned skill. Because if we bring this down to earth, for you listening, this isn't about laziness or just delaying things. What's the subtle difference between this idea of restraint and, say, just everyday procrastination?
That's a really important distinction to make. Procrastination is the avoidance of action, usually because of discomfort. Restraint, as it's described here, is the deliberate placement of action based on awareness. It's a refinement technique.
Okay, so it's an active choice.
It's an active choice to wait for alignment. I mean, think of a master archer. They don't rush the shot. They hold the tension in the string, not because they're afraid to shoot, but because they're waiting for that perfect moment, the breath, the wind, the muscle tension.
I see.
That deliberate holding, that is restraint.
So it's an act of maximizing potential, not minimizing effort. And this training, the pausing, the restraint, it prepares creation for what the source calls the subtler challenge. How to act without disturbing balance. That phrase is it's key. It suggests that even positive energy, the drive to build, to help, to progress, it can be disruptive if it's not guided by that quiet internal force. But how can an action disturb the balance if the intention behind it is good?
It disturbs balance when it's out of sync with its environment or even its own true needs. I mean, think of a person who, with the best intentions, throws themselves into every single volunteer opportunity, every new project.
Right, I know people like that.
They're acting, they're expending positive energy, but they quickly reach burnout and chaos. That energy, even though it's positive, disturbs the balance of their own life because it lacks measure. So this initial section, it really solves the problem of impulsive or, disorganized energy. If we connect this back to our mission question, the pause, the restraint, it doesn't stop motion. It just ensures the trajectory is correct. It makes sure the movement will support the greater balance rather than just satisfy an immediate need to be seen doing something.
And the text suggests that the solution to that subtle challenge acting without disturbing balance is the arrival of wisdom. And here's where it gets really insightful. Wisdom did not arrive loudly. It emerged gently, guiding action without force. You know, in our cultural stories, wisdom is often the sage on the mountain offering these booming, definitive proclamations. But this description it's so different. It's quiet, subtle.
And if we analyze the mechanism of wisdom, we see its practical side. It translates into method. Decisions became measured. Movement became thoughtful. The gentleness of it doesn't mean it's weak. It means its control is absolute and internal. It's not forcing anything. It's just making sure that every step is proportional and appropriate for the moment.
And this brings us to a really profound distinction in the text. The source clarifies that wisdom did not suppress energy. It refined it. Okay, so if wisdom isn't a sensor telling us to stop, but an editor telling us how to improve, what is the practical difference between suppressing energy and refining it?
Well, suppression is a zero-sum game. It diminishes the drive. Refinement, on the other hand, is about efficiency, potency. Think of a sculptor. They don't suppress the marble. They refine the block by removing everything that isn't the final form. The energy is constant, but it's directed by this refined vision. So wisdom takes that inherent drive, that creative energy, and it makes it targeted. It makes it powerful by giving it exact direction and meaning. You know, in a human context, refining your energy could mean choosing to go to 10 networking events impulsively, just hoping for a connection. Or you could choose one event. You spend the time you saved researching, preparing a single meaningful connection point, and dedicating your full composed energy to that one interaction. Wisdom focuses the force.
That makes the outcome so much clearer. And this focusing, it leads to the realization about choice and avoidance. The source states it very clearly. What was avoided became as important as what was chosen. And this is such a critical aha moment, especially for you, the learner. Navigating a world with endless options, we're so conditioned to prioritize the to-do list, the chosen actions. But here, the source is suggesting true wisdom is in understanding what we should purposefully not do, making sure our actions serve balance, not impulse.
This is the strategic power of subtraction. I mean, without a defined purpose, every option looks like a necessary action. Wisdom provides the filter. Think about the modern challenge of constant information, social media, news alerts. Wisdom teaches you to actively avoid that impulse to check the feed, to jump into every debate. That non-choice is a powerful, deliberate alignment with what truly matters.
But I have to ask the critical question here, one that I think anyone hearing this might have. If we're relying on this quiet internal guidance system, how do we distinguish wisdom, this measured restraint, from just, well, fear or paralysis? They can look really similar from the outside.
That's a necessary challenge. Fear or paralysis, they cause stagnation. The energy gets trapped, it becomes chaotic internally, and it leads to regret. Inertia. Measured action guided by wisdom does the opposite. It generates an internal state of calm focus while it's preparing for the most impactful moment. The key differentiator is the quality of the internal state. Fear feels tight, wisdom feels expansive and composed.
Okay, that makes sense.
And reinforcing the ultimate outcome of all this measured movement, the source notes that creation did not slow down. And that's the crucial payoff. Measured action is not procrastination. It is maximum efficiency guided by meaning. Instead of slowing, the entity moved with purpose. The momentum didn't decrease. It became purer, more focused, and therefore more powerful over the long term.
It just redefines success, doesn't it? It's not by the volume of movements performed, but by the impact and meaning of each one. You might take 5 steps where you used to take 20, but those 5 steps are amplified because they're perfectly timed and aimed. So let's bring all of this abstract wisdom down into our daily reality. How does this quiet, gentle, measured process actually show up for us in the busy flow of human life? The source gives us a direct and, I think, wonderfully grounding answer. In human life, wisdom often feels silent.
Yeah, and it's important to understand where that silence is broken by manifestation. We aren't looking for a person who shouts their insights. Wisdom is seen in observable behavior. The source points specifically to 3 observable qualities: timing, patience, and the calm confidence of right effort.
Let's explore those a bit. Timing and patience are obviously linked to restraint.
Yeah.
If you're preparing for a difficult conversation, for example, patience isn't just waiting around. It's the active internal work you do while you wait for the right moment.
Exactly. And that calm confidence of right effort is the visible sign of having successfully refined your energy. You've avoided serving impulse. Imagine a high-stakes negotiation. The impulsive negotiator rushes in, speaks loudly, reveals their hand too early. The wise negotiator They wait, they listen, they understand the true goal, and then they make a single measured offer at the precise moment it will be most effective. That calm confidence comes from the internal assurance that they're acting with purpose, not haste.
Right, so the ability to show that patience and calm confidence in a world that just rewards frantic, visible activity. That's a sign that the internal system is working.
It is. It shows you've prioritized the quality of your movement over the sheer quantity of movement.
Now, the source material wraps this all up with 3 concise lessons to learn. And these aren't just suggestions. They feel like the distilled, actionable insights from the narrative. So let's make sure we internalize these. The first nugget: wisdom refines action. It doesn't tell you to stop acting. It tells you how to act better.
Yeah, this is about optimization. It's taking that initial impulse, the raw energy, and making sure it fits the balance. It forces us to ask, is this action just a habit or a reaction, or is it the best possible expression of my resources right now?
Nugget number 2, timing gives meaning to effort. This is the ultimate validation of measured action. The when validates the what.
This one elevates context above mere effort. Effort at the wrong time is often wasted energy. It just causes disruption. But effort with perfect timing, it can become an irresistible force. Wisdom's primary function is determining that perfect when. It transforms effort from simple labor into real leverage.
And finally, nugget number 3, purpose creates harmony. And this links the inner motivation directly to the outer balance.
This is the culmination of the entire journey. Responsibility and restraint are the tools. Purpose is the blueprint. When you're deeply understood internal motivation, your purpose aligns with your external movement. You just naturally achieve that harmony that the text was talking about in the very first section.
So for you, the learner, these 3 lessons really serve as a filter.
They do. They stress that the true metric of effectiveness is the quality of movement, not the volume. Wisdom lets you filter the signal, your purpose, from all the chaotic noise of impulse, so you only move when the action has meaning.
It introduces this profound simplicity into complex decision-making, just by demanding deliberate constraint before any movement begins. So we started this deep dive with the premise that wisdom waits until action finds meaning. We traced the journey from creation, accepting responsibility, learning the necessity of restraint, and culminating in action guided not by impulse, but by purpose. The text reveals that the greatest effort in this journey might sometimes be the quiet effort of the pause itself, that quieter force that shapes all meaningful movement.
The synthesis is clear. True action, durable action, is the result of refined energy, not impulsive force. It moves with maximum efficiency because it's been edited and timed correctly by wisdom, ensuring it serves balance above all else.
So, what does this all mean for you this week? If we accept the idea that what was avoided became as important as what was chosen, consider this thought. This week, don't just plan what critical steps you'll take to move forward. Actively identify 3 distractions, maybe 3 knee-jerk impulses, or 3 unnecessary commitments that you will purposefully refrain from engaging with. What power does that intentional restraint grant your true purpose as you guide your next deliberate move?